So next up, we are going to be talking about the rise of player-powered user acquisition, how incentives will shape the future of mobile growth. And that is Alex Arias from Treasure Play. Alex, come on up.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. Very nice to be here. My name is Alex Arias. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Treasure Play. And I feel really glad to be back in Helsinki. I would love to say a little bit more about us and our team. But I've been in gaming for over 15 years now. My career actually started here in Helsinki. I moved from Chile to Helsinki back in 2008. And it's been amazing to see the evolution of the gaming industry since those days. At Digital Chocolate, where we used to work, we were figuring out the transition for feature phone games to social games, remember, and smartphones. And eventually there was so much learning. The industry was changing I think in a similar way that we're about to see change now later. After that, I was at EA running globally product management for our data platform, trying to have a single view of the player and use that information for personalization and engagement. And then I started Omniata, which was an analytics platform that was actually quite broadly used here in Finland with some great studios that we team up with and we work with and we learn a lot together until they got acquired by King. And then I spent some time at Xbox, Microsoft, and for the pandemic, decided to take a bit of a personal break and catch up with the family and with life. And now, post-pandemic, decided to start something new. Really excited. So I decided I wanted to bring the best possible people I could to team up with this. So Andreas is my co-founder. He was running product for Candy Crush and other great titles at King. Bertrand was SimCity and the engineering lead product. And all the beautiful art you see of Treasure Play was Peter creation from King and Wooga. And our journey started as a Web3 company. We started building Web3 games. The first game we built was called Eternal Dragons. And it was quite successful for Web3 standards. We have a super engaged community. We made this incredible event in Berlin where players from all over Europe drove, in some cases over a day, to come to this carnival, essentially, that we put together. People dressed in dragon costumes, and we start talking to them. And it was the first glimpse of what I think is the biggest change we're seeing in gaming, which is this direct relationship with players. For once, they were not, analytics and just teams and retentions and strings. It was actual people that are passionate about the game, that tell you more that give you feedback, and also that they are partners. They're partners that can help you grow. They can bring their friends to play. And I think that trend of having that direct relationship with players is something that is going to stay and is going to grow beyond. It's going to be mainstream, part of all the regular games. One will start to consider players more as a partner than just a regular consumer. So we brought those learnings, everything about incentives that really work to drive user behavior and engagement, and that relate connection with players. And we focus all our energy and our resources to build Treasure Play, which is this platform to enable this new paradigm. So we identified three main trends that's been happening for the past few years. On the one hand is this direct connection with players. Well, a good example are the web shops, right? You want to give offers to the player to buy directly from you, and they get a discount, they get a better deal, and you get direct connection with them. You get also payment methods, you can engage with them. There's more value both ways. And I think that's also being enabled by policy. From the privacy perspective, you will see that the players in control and say, maybe I share my data, maybe not. And if I share my data, what's in it for me? What's the value that we want to deliver to that player? And I think that's a great question, and we should answer that. We should be able to provide value to players for helping us grow the business. The other trend that we have seen is that the players are getting a share of the value creation. In Web3, that's obvious. That was the whole paradigm is about teaming up and putting it up, and the players get a share of that value creation. But I think that's expanding beyond that to all of gaming. And we see that with the growth of incentivized ad networks. The share of spending on ad networks that is going to incentivize is incredible. And that happened very recently. It's something for the past, just a little bit over a year, but at an incredible rate. And I'll show you a bit of data around that. And the last one is that with the latest tools, with AI, there's an empowerment to players so they can contribute more to your games. Another way of thinking of players as partners, right? User-generated content. I think these incredible demos of just typing a prompt and you get a full game, end to end. And imagine that type of technology in the hands of millions of players. Imagine the creativity, what's going to come out of that. And that's happening. It's happening right now. And on the other hand, you see this ecosystem that are verticals like Telegram or like Roblox, where you have tools to make games. You can publish your games. You can have direct communication with them. You have a currency. You can spend. And in the case of Telegram, you have a social network. You have communication. You have discovery. I don't know if you have seen, but there's an incredible growth on some of those titles where the players get some points for inviting their friends. Very simple. It comes all the way back to Facebook, mechanics. But in this case, those points can be exchanged for their token ton, and that can eventually become real money. It's a little bit cumbersome, but actually the experience is quite good, and it's hinting you. There's something about having that connection with the player and team up with them to grow your game, and that's happening. So, a couple of examples. There's a report from Misplay that shows how over 80% of players will want to play a game that gives them real-world rewards, or tangible rewards, as they call them, right? What I found interesting on this metric was like there's a 25% of players that will actually stop playing the game and play a game that gives you reward. So in a hyper-competitive world we are today in terms of gaming, if you have two games and one gives you recognition, some points, something that you can brag on, something you can even cash in, or something special, the choice is going to be pretty simple. So one can stand out by have a better value proposition for players, and they are becoming more aware that they have the power to make that decision, to join your game based on those rewards. So we also I have seen how you can see how the spending on marketing has increasingly going deeper in the funnel. So it's moving beyond CPIs to feedback and optimization based on ads, for example, or IAPs, or special events. And what's magic about that is that as they complete certain milestones in your game, you can start predicting and understanding what's the value of that player later on, because they may have been exposed already or show a level of engagement that can help you predict that player will eventually actually become a really great player. So optimizing for events deeper in the funnel, you can see is a trend that's happening across all different ad networks. And then the most obvious one when it comes to volume of spend on ad networks, you see Misplay and AdJoe really going up to the ranks in a really rapid way. So I believe that the ad network business is being challenged right now by this new model, because it's very disruptive. And what's disruptive about it is that the player is getting a share of it. The player is part of the equation. And that wasn't the case before. So this revolution is what we think is happening. The players will have the power to share the data or not. They will decide whether to buy from your web shop or will want to have a web shop to get a better deal. Or they would expect, there's an expectation set essentially of getting rewards by performing valuable actions. And then they're going to be empowered also to create, to contribute, to be part of a community. So we should think about that transition of what's happening with players. And our recommendation for game developers is embrace this change and be proactive and build that direct relationship with them. Have your Discord, ask for email, get ways of communicating, get a web shop, and let them contribute to your game with different tools and reward them. And I think this relationship, what's important, it needs to outlive the game. It needs to be something that you want to build a relationship that you can reuse for re-engagement when they're not playing. You can reuse for re-engagement when you want them to try your new game. It's important to distinguish a player playing your game from your relationship with your player. And the companies that have been successful at that are showing, they're building this CRM, this direct connection with them. Now, what are the right incentives and what are the right rewards? It's actually a really hard problem because it's dynamic. Like, what's the right mission to give to this user? What's the right reward? How you even value from a monetary perspective those rewards? And how you want to communicate that to them, with what type of tone, what content, what images, and perhaps there's a timing aspect. Maybe they only have, is it 1 day, is it 2 days, is it a week to complete that mission? What's the right time? So it's a lot to think about and data to look at to try to figure that out. And perhaps you even want to make those rewards more exclusive and only 100 of your players will get them. Coming from some of the learnings from the Web3 space. So that is the area where our approach to solve that problem, and people have different approaches for that, but our approach is to rely on data. That's our background, that's what we do, that's what we love to do, and essentially we're using analytics, machine learning, and LLMs to solve these different parts of the puzzle, to figure out what is the right mission to give to a user, how to communicate that mission, identify the content and use LLMs for creating these personalized content and experiences for player. And then on the other side, predict and understand what's the right reward and what's the monetary value of that reward, which is contextually, it depends on each player and on each game, and it's all driven by data. So that is what has worked for us. We have a little demo I can walk you real quick to show you how this works in action. So this is our platform. So essentially, after you log in order to create this dynamic quest, first of all, we import all the metadata and the content that the application has in the store, and we use that to create those quests dynamically. And then we connect to a source of data, in this case, a Firebase, so we can understand, based on that data, what are the right milestones and what's the value of those milestones for your players. So we can automatically give insights and actually tools for analyzing the data, but more importantly, an automated way, which I think is the way how tools should work from now on in this new generation, which is let's use data to configure everything and let it suggest what are the right missions and the right price points, because it requires that analytic work to be able to create those quests. And then we allow them we show a preview, and then we put the quest live. And when they're live, they start showing in our network, both in our app, but also as SDK. So it can show up in many different ways. It can show as native quests as part of the game, consumable items or items in the store. We show a pop-up, an offer, send the user to the other game. We get the post back, and eventually we dynamically generate a push notification that we send to the user and say, awesome, you have completed the mission. So come back and get your reward. So you see there, as soon as we get a post back from the MMP or from the source of data we have for that post back, we are able to reward that player. So our view is that by leveraging data, we can deliver more relevant missions and rewards for players, which is going to be a better experience for players, and is going to be more effective from a developer perspective to acquire players. And I think it's a continuous process of more data, you get more feedback. And what I want to share today is that we're launching our Treasure Play app later in the quarter. We're inviting developers to join us in this launch. We've been yesterday really busy from morning to when the event ended, getting developers on board, which has been really exciting. We're giving out up to $100,000 in credits for user acquisition to help these developers that are supporting us get their games discovered. And we're going to send our users to all of those games. And so we're really excited about that. So if you want to learn more, well, I will invite you to drop by our booth, which is it's right at the end. You can follow the treasure map also that you probably have in your hands. And but the key takeaways I want to share really from an industry perspective, from my perspective, is that this revolution where the player is in control, the player is getting more value, the player is getting a revenue share is happening, and you better embrace it. Do something to connect directly, to have a direct communication, have a web shop, give them offers, give them a good deal, and make them feel special, make them feel awesome. If they are great players, if they spend money, why not give them something special? Some gift, some gift card. That makes them feel appreciated, and I think that those are the expectations that players, especially good players, are going to have. And they want to brag about it. They want to tell their friends. They want to be appreciated socially for being, spending that money and playing those games and being awesome at those. So I think that being proactive and taking actions to have that direct relationship is important. And then from our perspective, we think that one can make the difference by thinking about those rewards and by giving that figure to those players. If they achieve certain milestones that are valuable for you, how about you get some value? You give them some value. So our roadmap or treasure map for the future. So first of all, I want to share that today, again, we're inviting developers to join us in this journey. And later in the quarter, we will be launching the Treasure Play app. So please come by, both for monetization and user acquisition. We'll be happy to discuss more in depth. And that's what I had to share today. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions? Oh, there's a question back. Oh, there's two. First question, first hand up, one over here.
Thank you. Hello, so my name is Claire, and I actually have a lot of clients that are also launching their rewarding app. So from your side, how do you acquire user? Which channel do you use? Like, do you usually use Meta to get user in your app, or what is your way to proceed?
We're launching the app later in the quarter, so we're doing specific UA for certain markets that we're testing the app, but we have not published it yet at scale.
Okay, so how do you plan to have your user into it?
Well, all the usual suspects.
Sorry?
All the usual suspects, including Meta, Google, and what you can imagine. So.
Okay, thanks.
Cool, thank you. We have another question over here, I think. Do you still have a question? You had your hand up for a question. No, okay. So I'll ask one. I mean, so I'm a cynic, and when it comes to play to earn, we've seen lots of people trying to introduce play to earn in various forms, and it's never worked, ever. And equally, Web3, there's been a lot of really good intention games out there, and there are some great games out there, but I think a lot of consumers have been burnt by it. Now, that being said, I think your method you're using is fantastic. Is it okay for us to use this kind of process, but for in-game, rewards, not necessarily real money or Web3-based experiences?
That's a great question. I think that this principle applies generally for any sort of reward mechanism you want for your players for valuable actions. Yeah. Whether that reward is something you want to give in game, or whether it's something that's been sponsored essentially because the action is performed somewhere else as part of user acquisition, it makes no difference from the methodology being the same about using data and predicting user behavior to be able to identify the right reward and the right quest. Yeah. So we think of this, for example, it can enable cross-promotion within networks. It can enable reward system within a single app. Or you may want to open up your ecosystem and actually let your players be sent abroad or get perhaps only traffic in, but then keep them in. I've been working in game studios, and I know how protective they can be of their place, which makes sense. But I think that's important to give that flexibility to say, look, you want a reward system for your players anyway. You could use it for user acquisition, but perhaps you want to also use it for cross-promotion and improving the network lifetime value. So to your point about Web3 and play-to-earn not working, I think that when you make the math work, if you have the right levers, you can find that if you give the right incentive to the right player at the right time, and you can measure the performance of that, eventually that equation works. They come for the reward, and then they stay for the game. And then in average, that cohort monetizes in a way that is ROAS positive.
And
if it's ROAS positive,
yeah,
that's
but
what matters.
To your point, I think where I'm coming from is the generic, like, do everything everywhere hasn't historically worked. But to your point, there is a subset of audience where this does work, where this can be very effective. And I don't want to be overly cynical, but I have to raise the cynical voice to have the conversation.
I love you bring it up. And I think the segmentation is the key difference.
It is.
One of the things that, we didn't find sustainable the business model in Web3 at all. And one of the reasons is that it's not targeted. Yeah. Like anyone could buy that coin or try to get that reward, and it makes no difference. Whereas here you want to be super clear about who should get what and when and for doing what. And because you can't do that on blockchain, because you don't have control over who owns what, that is why you cannot enable the sustainable business model.
Exactly, and I think like you said, the whole point here is, let's be open-minded about what's possible, but also think about what works for the player, and that means segmenting, like you're saying. So I think that's been fantastic. Thank you very much for that.
No, my pleasure. Thank you all for coming and for the great questions.
Great stuff. Thank you very much. Brilliant stuff. Thanks, Alex. Right.